Hello. My name is Emily Kelly Joseph. I work at Wellfleet Preservation Hall and very excited to have the work of Joan and Candace, who are created these plays and are sharing them on this virtual screen. We're happy to be a part of their production. Just a little bit of housekeeping. I did have you muted and your screen off when you entered. I would ask that you turn your screen off once we get the video that John's going to share on his computer going. That way, that'll help with the bandwidth and just allow us to get hopefully a strong picture coming through on John's computer. And what's going to happen is I'm going to share the screen with John, and John's going to take over and share the films through his computer. And if you miss anything, if you get kicked out for any reason, this will be recorded and it'll be on our website at a future date. So without further ado, John, I think that you should take it away.
Oh, hello, Miss Worsham.
Call me Lena.
Lena, thanks for taking the time to meet with me this way.
Oh, sure. I'm still not getting out much with all this COVID. I've got diabetes, and at my age, I'm not taking any chances, especially getting face to face with strangers from away. Now, you're from up north, is that right?
Yes, on Cape Cod in Massachusetts, but I was born in Waco and grew up here.
Oh, so you left home. Not me, I stuck around. But are you for real?
I don't know.
Do you seriously believe in ghosts?
Oh, well, it's research. I try to keep an open mind.
Oh, that's fair enough.
So, Lena, I'm John Dennis Anderson, and I'm doing research for a play I want to write about the ghosts that supposedly haunt this house.
Oh, a play. So you're not some kind of ghost hunter? I thought you were. You know, doing some kind of psychic research, like on that show on the Sci-Fi Channel. That was the impression I got from Sharon at the Cooper Foundation. She said she let you explore the house because you were trying to, I don't know, document ghosts.
Well, yes, but it's not that kind of thing. I've just always been fascinated by this house. Growing up here in Waco, I spent a lot of time in the library across the street, and I would stare at the cupola and the little round window of this attic room where Madison Cooper wrote Saronia, Texas.
You know, my great aunt Bertha was Cooper's housekeeper there for years and years.
Yes, that's why I wanted to talk to you. She started before World War I, right? When his parents were still alive. She lived in the apartment over the garage, I hear, and she went on living there after both of them died, and even after Madison Cooper died in 1956.
Yeah, in his will, he stipulated that she could stay on as the caretaker of the place after it became the offices for the Cooper Foundation. Well, there's some spooky shit went on after dark, she said. Maybe there are ghosts. Auntie certainly thought so.
Well, that's one of the things Sharon said you could tell me about.
So you're up in the attic now, right?
Yeah.
Madison Cooper's office where he wrote the book?
Yes, Sharon let me come up here and look around, and I thought it would be atmospheric, to do this Zoom interview here in the room where it happened,
Yeah, the room where it happened, the room where it happened.
Hamilton.
Oh, you got it. I love that show. You better watch out though. You know, Auntie said one time that that office door locked from inside when she was alone in the house. She was in the hall getting stuff out of the storage cupboards, and she heard the lock turn. She heard the floorboards creak on the other side of the door, and the typewriter keys strike just once or twice. She called out, "Mr. Madison?" That's what she called it, Mr. Madison. Is that you? She tried the knob and it was locked. Well, she got the willies, and then she heard him coming up the stairs. He went over and turned the knob and the door opened. He said she must have imagined it.
Well, maybe the knob was just stuck, do you think?
And the creaking and the typewriter. The thing is, it also happened 2 nights after he passed. Mr. Madison, is that you? Footsteps and the typewriter keys. Click, click, clickety, click. It happened so many times, and he wouldn't go up there anymore. Where it happens.
Oh, good thing I left the door open. Did you visit your great aunt here in the house?
Oh, yes, many times. I would stay with Auntie overnight on weekends in her apartment over the garage. Oh, we would hang out in the big kitchen in the house and sing and sing. Oh, she was always singing. There's a sweet, sweet spirit in this place. Oh, she would sing that and other hymns. And I did turn Auntie on to the Temptations, though. Yeah, I've got sunshine, on a cloudy day. Oh, we didn't have to keep it down on the weekends because we were alone in that big old house. Now, I wasn't allowed to go upstairs, though, certainly not in that creepy old attic room.
So do you believe in ghosts?
No, not that kind. The kind that go bump in the night. No. There are other kinds. Worse kinds.
Worse kinds?
The kind that demand justice. The kind that won't rest until the wrongs done them are righted or put to right. Like the ghost of the Waco Horror, the lynching of Jesse Washington that happened here in Waco in 1916. You know about that. I'm a co-chair of the Community Racial Reckonings Committee, the CRRC. We started it 20 years ago now to raise awareness, to exorcise the ghosts of the lynchings that haunt this town to this day.
I only learned of the Waco Horror because of Cooper's novel, Saronia, Texas. He based that horrible lynching in the novel on the one that happened here in 1916.
Oh yes, I know what he wrote. Oh, I wish he had never written it. That book was a curse on my family.
On your family?
Yes, on Auntie. She had to put up with all that gossip. Everybody saying that smutty book was about Waco. Dirty stuff about white men sleeping around with their black servant girls. And her living in that house with her.
Well, over the garage.
Oh, still, you know what people thought and said. It was all Auntie could do to hold her head up in church.
Well, Cooper denied that Saronia was Waco, but he had his secretary burn all his personal papers immediately after he died. I wonder what, well, one person I interviewed said he had the biggest pornography collection in town.
Oh, really? Auntie always defended him. She wouldn't hear anything bad said about him in her presence.
Oh, but you heard the rumors.
Oh, she did say there was more to him than people knew. And of course, she saw who came and went in that house. How could she not, living right there?
Like who?
Well, she always talked about all the servicemen she cooked huge meals for during the war in the 40s. He was always inviting lots of them over for dinner.
Oh, yes, I read about that. He was a veteran of the First World War. I suppose offering hospitality to the troops was a way of supporting the war effort, since he couldn't enlist again. He was too old. He was really generous. Well, he left millions to the Cooper Foundation after all, his whole fortune. And I heard he would meet young men at the YMCA and give them money for their education.
Why are you so nosy? What business is it of yours?
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to pry. As I said, I'm writing a play about Madison Cooper in Saronia, Texas.
I thought you said it was about ghosts.
Well, in a way, in the novel, there are stories about ghosts, the ghosts of the Hill families, the old high society families, ghosts that can't rest and haunt the living and guard their secrets,
Secrets?
secrets that explain things.
What kind of thing?
Well, Cooper never married. Why do you think that was? Did your aunt ever say anything about it?
If she did, it was private. It was confidential.
Yes, of course. But it might have put an end to the rumors, the gossip about her and Mr. Madison.
How do you think it would necessarily do that?
So she did tell you something.
Maybe. What's it worth to you?
I'm sorry.
What is it worth to you? What would you be willing to give me if I told you?
You mean money?
Oh, no, not money. Help. Help to get a plaque, a memorial acknowledging the lynchings. You know, our committee has been fighting for 20 years to get this town to put up a plaque telling what happened here. The courthouse, there's a mural that's been there for who knows how many years. It shows the town square where the Waco Horror happened with a noose hanging from a tree, a noose. But there's no mention of Jesse Washington. I have a picture of it. You have to see this. Use that Zoom thing that lets me share my screen and I'll show you.
Okay, let's see. I do this and then, wait, where did the screen share and share? Oh, wow, that's grotesque. Oh my God. But what can I do?
What can you do? Hell, you can speak up. Join our demonstrations. If you're gonna write a play, write about that. Why do you want to write about that racist book of Cooper's? It's as bad as Birth of a Nation. That Mammy character is straight out of Gone with the Wind.
It's not really that simple. You know, Cooper, what was he doing? He was portraying racism. He wasn't promoting it. Cooper saw it as a study in tolerance and compassion. It shows the racism of the time, but only to expose the horror of it, the horror of lynching.
What it exposed was white privilege. The ways white men use Black women, the power that they had over them. Those Hill family tree charts on the book's end pages. You see any of the shadow families on that tree? No, siree, no. He took all that white privilege for granted. He took my aunt for granted.
So she was his mistress? Did she tell you that?
What? Who do you think you are? Not listening to any more of your crap.
No, please. I'm so sorry. I'm just trying to understand, to learn the truth, like you are with the plaque, the memorial. I want people to know who Madison Cooper was and to appreciate what he accomplished.
And you think dragging my auntie through the mud again will do that? Didn't she suffer enough because of him? Well, she lived with those filthy rumors for years and years. But then he died and people forgot about Saronia, Texas, and good riddance. Let it stay forgotten.
But that's what some people in Waco say about the lynching. That's what keeps your committee from getting that plaque put up. Let it stay forgotten, they say, but the ghosts keep haunting us.
Yeah, yeah. Like after the lynching, Black folks in town were terrified. The mob would keep going, burn down their neighborhoods. You know, things like that happen, you know. In Tulsa, Oklahoma, they burned down Black Wall Street, the whole Greenwood district.
Cooper showed something like that happening in the book. The cabin of the lynched man's family was burned, and the main character, a white man, sheltered them, hid them from the mob.
Auntie hid in the room you're in now. There in the attic. Old Mr. Cooper, Madison's father, put her in there. He told her to lock the door from inside and to hide in a big trunk. If she heard people come to the house, she could hear the commotion. It was just a dozen or more blocks away. More than 10,000 people screaming for blood and cheering. They dragged Jesse Washington's mutilated body behind a car through the streets until his head came off. People took parts of his body, ears, fingers, even his.
Oh my God. This was in 1916. Cooper was just short of his 22nd birthday, barely out of college. How old was your aunt then?
She was 20. She had only just started working for the Cooper family.
How did she come to work for them?
Old Mr. Cooper had taken an interest in her.
An interest?
Yes, and Ms. Cooper pretended not to know. That was the way in those days. Open secrets, shadow families. You read the book. He wasn't making that stuff up.
So the rumors weren't true. That your great aunt wasn't Madison Cooper's lover.
Oh, she was his sister, or half sister, that is. Of course, she wasn't his lover. Her mother was his father's, whatever. Madison?
Oh my God.
He was gay as a goose. He wasn't after Auntie. He was after all those servicemen, all those young men he took an interest in down at the Y, as you say. There were lots of rumors about that too, that you've obviously heard about. But he didn't put any of that gay stuff in Saronia, though. No, sir. No. As many scandals as that book exposed, he didn't dare expose himself. That was one piece of dirty laundry he didn't have the guts to air.
I suspected as much. I had a hunch, I guess. That always made more sense to me as the reason he didn't marry. The reason he was so secretive, so obsessed with his privacy, in spite of loving all the limelight of that publicity over Saronia, Texas. He was in the closet.
Locked behind that door. Like you are.
Me?
Huh. Are you going to tell me you're straight? Please, come on. A hunch. It takes one to know one, right? That's what you need. That's what this is all about, isn't it? That's why you are digging into Cooper's secrets, into Auntie's secrets. You say you want to know the truth, to understand. Well, how does it feel to have someone exposing your private life? Huh? How does it feel? You think you're uncovering Cooper's tolerance, compassion with your snooping? Bullshit. All you're doing is looking in a mirror, trying to find yourself in somebody else's life. It's bigger than you. This is about Black Lives Matter. It's all about all the Black men and women who were lynched in this country. Who cares about Madison Cooper and his white privilege? Not me. Not me. We want justice. We demand justice. Now stop wasting my time.
Wait, I get it. I'm not in the closet. Well, not for a long time anyway, not since I left Waco 50 years ago, but maybe you're right, Lena. Growing up gay in Waco wasn't easy. I had no role models. Maybe I want to find one in Madison Cooper, even if he kept it hidden. Maybe I can't see past my own wanting him to be gay, but you could set the record straight with what you know. You could explain.
Set the record straight? What I know? You know what? I made all that up. It was so obvious you wanted some juicy secret. I was just yanking your chain, you fool. And now I've had enough of you and Madison Cooper and Saronia, Texas. I'm out of here.
Wait, I can help you, Lena. I want to try at least. If I can write something that brings enough attention to Cooper and Saronia, to his serious purpose with the book, it will also call attention to the Waco Horror. We want the same thing, don't you see? But if Bertha wasn't Madison's lover or his half-sister, then why was she so loyal to him? What secrets of his was she keeping? Was she giving him cover, letting people think they were lovers to protect him, keep his closet door closed?
What do you think?
What do you know?
I'm not ever going to tell you unless you help me get that plaque up. Maybe. We'll get to work.
Sharon, is that you? My interview is finished. The door's locked. It's locked. Sharon, the door's locked.
It's a sweet, sweet spirit in this place. It's a sweet, sweet spirit in this place. Mm-hmm.
Hey man, you okay?
I beg your pardon?
I said, you okay? You know, friendly like. Are you okay?
I am uncertain. What day is it?
Monday, beginning of the week.
I see, Monday. And might I trouble you for the month?
No trouble. May
And the year?
2017. Hey, no worries. Not many of us keep calendars here, you know what I mean? You sure you're okay?
I'm fine. Just a bit confounded.
Well, hey, welcome to the club. Nobody down here is not just a little bit baffled.
Your bivouac conditions are not what I was accustomed to.
Bivouac conditions. That's a good one. Haven't heard that in a while. Name's George.
I am Robert Edward Lee.
You new here, Bob?
No, sir. I've been in the area for a long time, but I've just recently been removed from my pedestal.
Good number of us have been knocked off our pedestals, you know what I mean?
Oh, who else is here? Beauregard, Davis?
Not big on names here. We got bankers, lawyers even. The mighty have fallen, you could say. Now we're all just a regular gang of guys from the mission.
Our mission was a noble one.
Mission here's okay, but that coffee stinks. Might as well fill your Dixie cup with day-old piss. you know what I
Sir,
mean?
show some respect
For what?
for the cause.
What cause?
Dixie, oh, I wish I was in the land of
Bob! You gotta watch who hears you singing that one, you know what I mean?
My good man, I have no idea what you mean. I've been removed from my plinth and deposited with a rabble of what appear to be field hands.
You need to be on your high horse, mister. You're just one of us.
Sir, I am General Robert E. Lee.
Right. And that fellow over there, that's Jesus Christ. Now, if you will excuse me, I've got to get to work. Hey, mister, can you spare any change for a vet?
Fuck off.
There's no need for that kind of language. George was simply
And fuck you too, Pops. It's my right to park my car in the shade of the overpass, and I shouldn't have to walk through this stinking spot to get to my office. Damn mayor should be spending my tax dollars removing you people instead of my heritage.
Your heritage, sir?
Damn straight. You're taking down Beauregard. My namesake, I might mention. Davis, now Lee. How stupid does Lee's circle over there look with a 60-foot pedestal and no one on top?
It was a long fall. But I must say, sir, I was never in favor of such monuments.
What the
He
hell?
thinks he's General Lee.
I wished to believe that we should not keep open the sores of war, but to follow the examples of those nations that endeavor to obliterate the marks of civil discourse.
What's wrong with you, old man? The city of New Orleans erected these beautiful monuments to keep memory alive, to remind us of our history, the chivalry, the cause.
It was a lost cause, son. We needed to accept that fact and move on with building a nation.
Bob's right. The monuments got put up after Reconstruction. Kind of we lost the battle but won the war, you know what I mean? Remind folks who was still in charge around here.
I hardly need to stand here and take history lessons from two homeless lunatics.
Oh, who are you calling lunatic? You want to fight about it?
Don't be ridiculous here. Get yourself a pint.
Sir, you have insulted this man. A gentleman does not tolerate such.
Oh, you gotta be kidding. I'm not fighting you, old man.
I will not say it again. You leveled an insult where none was warranted.
This would be funny if it wasn't so ridiculous. Get out of my way. I'm done. Ooh.
Wow. Where'd you learn to land a punch like that?
I did not attend West Point for embroidery lessons.
West Point, you say? Well, I should have you arrested, but I'll let it be. We could use you
For what, sir?
to fight these imbeciles who are taking down our statues and ruining our country. Every school child knows that the war between the states wasn't about slavery, it was about states' rights.
Sir, the war was about slavery, about the white man's right to keep his property as he saw fit. There is no debate.
Well, fellas, you might want to keep your voices down, you know what I mean?
Oh, and this is exactly the problem with this country. 3 white men can't have a conversation without the PC police butting in. We need to take back the country.
Whoa, you talking Ku Kluxers?
Oh, please, no need for those low-life types. We're just talking about protecting our way of life, getting the right people elected, that sort of thing. Up to a good start with the 2016 elections. So, old man, you want to help us?
I chose to remain out of politics after the war. I see no reason to change that course now.
Well, suit yourself, but with a shower and a clean uniform, we could pass you off as the general himself.
Sir, I am General Robert E. Lee.
Right. And does General Lee want this country run by people who aren't like us? Run by those other people?
Ah, don't listen to him. Let's you and me head over to the mission for breakfast. Pancakes are better than the coffee. This guy is trying to get you involved with white supremacists. You don't want that.
My good man, slavery required the acknowledgement of the superiority of the white man, and white supremacy
was what made slavery possible. That is what we were fighting for.
Oh, come on, knock it off. A lot of black guys go to the mission for breakfast. Black ladies dish out the food. You can't go talking like that.
Hey, let me worry about breakfast for General Lee. After that, we'll get him outfitted. You'd like that, wouldn't you, General?
I would appreciate proper attire. Is there a central depot nearby where I can requisition such?
Well, absolutely. Southern costume is just a few blocks from here.
Hey, you're not going to dress him up and parade him in front of your Proud Boy pals. Not on my watch.
Well, what's it to you?
It's just not right. You can't get him all mixed up in this mess. Fine if he wants to be General Lee, but if people take him seriously, he could get hurt. You can see the guy is confused.
Sir, I'm somewhat disoriented, but not confused.
That's right, General. And I promise it'll be fun, just like the old fraternity days. In fact, when I was in college, you were our role model, sir.
I'm afraid I do not understand. Were you one of our students at Washington College?
Oh, Kappa Alpha at Louisiana State University. We admired you and your courage, your skill on the battlefield, your fine manners. You were everything we wanted to be.
You were one of those KA assholes. You dressed up in Confederate uniforms for your old South Ball. Bet none of you ever went to war. Not to real war.
And you had ROTC at your community college? Is that why you went to war?
I was a deek at LSU, but I flunked out.
And landed here on Skid Row.
Landed in Nam.
You were at Antietam? Bloodiest single day of battle of the whole war it was. Oh, terrible casualties, both sides.
Yes, sir, I studied that battle. But I was in a different war. Nothing gallant about my war.
Nothing gallant about any war. A lot of death and destruction.
And that's why we need the statues, to remember the sacrifices, to honor the heroes.
How about you honor this hero by giving me more than these couple of bucks you tossed my way? A grant would be good.
Sure, why not?
That's what I'm talking about. Take a look at this, Bob. Come with me, we'll share the spoils.
What is this?
50? Been a while since you've seen one?
The Republicans must still be in charge if Ulysses is on the currency.
You bet the Republicans are in charge, and we're making America great again.
I tried to tell the Congress that the Negroes lacked the qualifications to make them safe depositories of political power. Those Republican scalawags wouldn't listen.
Oh, different kind of Republicans in power now. I think you'd approve, sir.
Are you saying that the natural order has been restored?
Well, we're working on it. And I think you might be just the man we need to lead us.
Man, don't listen to him.
Oh, butt out. We don't need any Yankee sympathizers telling us what to do.
Is it true, George? You're a Yankee sympathizer?
Look! The world has moved on. My black buddy saved my life in Nam. You seem a nice enough guy, Bob, so you might want to drop the General Lee bit.
I do not understand.
Come on, I'll explain it over a real breakfast. We'll start off with coffee and beignets at Café du Monde. You'd like that, wouldn't you, Bob?
General Lee, let's get you that uniform I promised. Then I'll introduce you to some people who understand what you were fighting for.
Bob! General Lee, sir, don't do it. You said yourself the country needed to move on, to repair itself.
Yes, those were my words. But if what this gentleman says is true, that the cause is still alive, then I have no choice but to fling myself back into the battle. Duty calls.
Well, hey, Cliff, you're looking good.
No point in complaining.
Now, what on earth would you have to complain about? You and Ruth living in that mansion with a fabulous view of the Ninth Hole.
How do you know about our view?
Duh. Facebook.
Damn. I keep telling that woman to stop posting pictures of our house. She might as well put out a sign in the front yard, "Come on in and rob us."
Don't be such a fuss budget. She's just proud of her home, as she should be, in the best part of Houston out here.
Yeah, we're doing okay.
False modesty does not become you, cuz. I remember when you used to claim bragging rights to just about everything, from horseshoes to French kissing.
Shit, Carol Sue. We were kids then.
We were teenagers. Kissing cousins, you might say.
Well, you might.
You ever wonder what could have become of us if all that hadn't been so taboo?
Never let myself think about it.
Would have killed my mama. Yours too.
Oh, you got that right.
But hey, it's great being back in touch with you. I was so glad when you said you'd help me put together this family reunion. And if everybody's vaccinated, maybe we can actually have it in person at one of the plantations on the river road.
Glad to help. And I'll tell you one thing. The years have been good to you, Carol Sue.
I just know how to set touch up on Zoom.
Now who's being falsely modest? Hard to believe a looker like you stayed single.
Guess I never managed to get over my first love. Look, if we keep this up, we're going to break some federal law. First cousins flirting across state lines during a pandemic or some such.
Well, we can't have that.
Nope, we can't have that. So you want to hear about this distant cousin I found?
Sure.
You know, I told you last time we spoke that I was going to link our family tree to my ancestry test.
Right.
So I did. And wouldn't you know, I got a green leaf.
What's that?
A common ancestor link. You read all that stuff I emailed you, right?
Right. Yeah.
Well, I called and introduced myself, invited her to join us. She should be calling in a few minutes.
Oh,
Well, don't die of excitement.
sorry. I just thought, well, I thought you and I were the planning committee.
Wow, we're a committee now.
You know what I mean. But I will be unwaveringly hospitable to our distant cousin when she joins us.
Thank you. Her name is Sheila. She sounded really nice on the phone. I told her all about us. Well, not all about us. And she was so excited about the possibility of a family reunion, except
what?
promise you won't think ill of me.
Never.
Well, she has this New York accent.
A Yankee in our family tree. I promise I can keep it a secret.
Now, don't make fun of me.
Sorry. But where's she from?
One of those parts of New York City that starts with a B. Brooklyn, the Bronx. But her great-grandmother was from Louisiana.
That's promising. From your neck of the woods.
Yes. But here's the thing, Cliff, and this is why I really wanted you to be on the call too. What if she's Jewish?
Jewish?
You know, New York, Jewish.
But what do you want me to do? Go out for bagels if she is?
Stop it. I just want you to help me figure out if she is.
And then what? You'll just pluck that leaf off the family tree?
Of course not. Family is family. I just want to know is all.
Well, just ask her what church she goes to.
Now you're pure genius. Why didn't I think of that? Oh, look, she's coming on the call. Let me just find that admit button here. Oh, there we go.
What the? You're white. You're both white.
Yes, ma'am, we are.
I don't believe this.
I think we're all a bit surprised.
Surprise? Damn, girl. When we talked on the phone, I never imagined you were white.
You thought Carol Sue was black?
Well, yeah. All that talk about barbecues and family picnics and mama this and dada that and every other word was y'all. But you're not even high yellow. You are white.
Yes.
And I related to you guys? Damn. Hold on. I need my notes and my coffee.
Can you believe this?
I don't think she's Jewish.
Oh, shut up.
All right. Oh my. Let's see. Okay. My great-great-grandmother was born in 1850. Born enslaved on a plantation on the River Road.
I think Ancestry has made a mistake. We don't have an ancestor who was ever a slave.
You don't get it, do you? Our common ancestor was the white man who raped my great-great-grandmother when she was 15. They produced my great-grandmother.
We don't know that it was rape.
Are you kidding me? She was his property.
I think what Carol Sue meant was.
Oh,
that-
trust me, I know exactly what she meant. Poor old massa. He was seduced by that nubile young woman. Is that what you meant?
No, I'm sorry. I guess I just wondered, maybe they had a loving relationship.
Please, I should have known. My son told me not to get my hopes up.
And what were you hoping for?
Connection, I guess, to the part of the family I never knew. To the ones in Louisiana and Texas who survived slavery and Jim Crow and white supremacists, who would welcome me and mine to their Juneteenth celebrations.
Juneteenth? What's that?
Oh my God, we really do live in two different countries, don't we? You live in Baton Rouge.
All my life.
And you never heard of Juneteenth?
Sorry, I have no idea what it is.
Me neither. I'm in Houston. Maybe that's why.
June 19th, 1865. The day the news of emancipation was delivered in Galveston, Texas. In Texas.
In Texas. Okay.
We've been celebrating Juneteenth ever since then. Black people everywhere hold parades and speeches and barbecues, and you never heard of it.
Maybe that's why we need to get to know more about our relatives.
I guess so. Sheila, would you still want to come to the reunion? Even if we are
White?
you know,
I'll need to think about it.
Okay. You take your time, cuz.
Now I know I'm not ready for that.
Sorry, didn't mean to overstep.
Look, You both seem like nice enough people. You grew up together, huh?
We did. Our families visited every summer.
Kissing cousins then.
Well, I wouldn't call it that. I don't know.
Please. First boy I ever made out with was my cousin Arthur. First cousin. On our grandmother's sofa when our parents left us to babysit the young ones. So you two?
Our grandmother had a sofa.
Are you and Arthur still close?
His wife and I keep up on Facebook. They moved to California. Wait till I tell them about you guys.
You want to invite them to the reunion?
Seriously?
Serious as a heart attack. But we're family, if you'll have us.
Lots to think about. Well, you two keep visiting. I'm gonna go now.
Well, I'll email you with some dates for our next Zoom call, okay?
Okay.
Good to meet you, Sheila.
Thanks. You too. Goodbye.
Bye. Wow. Wasn't expecting that. You were really something.
You too. You know, Carol Sue, if Sheila and them come to the reunion, I don't think we can have it at a plantation.
What's wrong with a plantation?
Where our ancestors enslaved hers.
Oh, right.
So I was thinking, what about a nice hotel in New Orleans? Well, you and I could go there sometime soon and find the perfect place.
You mean we'd meet up in New Orleans?
Yeah,
Won't Ruth mind?
actually, Ruth and I are separating.
Oh, well, that's surprising news.
It's been a long time coming. Kids grown, the usual. And some of us never really got over our first love.
I've heard that historic New Orleans collection can't be beat for genealogical research.
Okay, then. New Orleans.
Thank you to so much to so many people who made this possible, especially Preservation Hall, the Wellfleet Cultural Council, and the Joan Patchen Fund of the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom. I'm Candace Perry, and I've been joined by my colleague, Jenna Sanderson, in presenting you these plays. One of the problems I find with Zoom is that we don't get to applaud. We don't get to hear the applause, but we really want to let you at least see these actors who made this all possible. And so I'm going to introduce them. And when I do, before I introduce them, if the actors could please turn your cameras on and even unmute yourselves so you can at least give a wave and say hello. And I'll introduce each person. Sally Ty was in the last play. Sally, are you on?
Yes, I am.
Thank you so much, Sally. Woo! Cindy Harrington, were you able to join us? I know Cindy had a meeting and was going to try to make it. Cindy, are you on? Unmute if you are. I think she hasn't gotten in yet. Patrick Revere, who did 2 plays for us. Patrick?
Hello.
That's Patrick. Thank you so much. Okay. John Schumann.
Yeah, here I am. Hello, come on.
Can't
Come
see you
on.
yet. We can hear you.
There
There
we
he
are.
is. Yay. Thank you, John. Dorothy Maines Prince.
Hello, everyone.
Hi, Dorothy.
Oh.
Thank you. And an actor and my fellow playwright, I'm delighted to also introduce John Dennis Anderson, who will now take it away and introduce our guest moderator, John.
Thank you so much, Candace, and all of you. And I think I should be appearing, but maybe not. You can at least hear me, I think. Oh, there's Dorothy. Hi, Dorothy. I wanted to encourage everyone to participate in our discussion that will follow a response by a guest that I'll introduce. You can do that by entering your questions and your comments down in the chat, which is, I think, at the bottom of your screen. And you'll have to type it in there. So I hope you'll do that. All right, it is a great, great pleasure to introduce my friend Charles Everett Pace, who has degrees from the University of Texas at Austin and Purdue University in Indiana. He has backgrounds in theater, American studies, and anthropology. His research area is the anthropology of performance. He has performed and conducted workshops in hundreds of cities across the United States, as well as in London. His Chautauqua characterizations, which is how I got to know him, include, among others, Frederick Douglass, Malcolm X, and W.E.B. Du Bois. I had the great pleasure as a professor at Emerson College to host him for a performance residency where he performed as Du Bois and was brilliant in the various classes. So now I invite Charles to unmute himself and to respond to the three plays, and then to moderate a discussion with Candace and myself and your comments and questions through chat. So take it away, Charles.
Thank you, John, and good evening. We've had a little problem with my audio. I want to double check. Do I have to call in or can you hear me?
I can hear you.
It's good for me too, Charles.
Okay, great. Wow. I think I'm gonna piggyback on something that Sheila said before she left in that last kinfolk. She said it's a lot to think about. And I'm reminded of a mutual friend of John and I, George Frine, when he moderates a Chautauqua program and he talks about the actors, the scholars doing a written text that in performance. And he asked the audience to do for that oral text the same thing that you do for a written text, to think and to think critically. Form little question marks in the margins of your mind, because those will be the basis for the questions that we will pursue. When I think about myself as an anthropologist, there's always two questions we get into when we start to get into a cultural representation, a cultural text, whether it's living people or written or filmed or whatever. We ask two questions. First, we come in sight unseen and we look around and we say, what's going on here? Check it out for a while, and after a while, we start to feel as though we have some grasp of what's going on. And then we ask the more significant questions, what's really going on here? And when I look at those three plays, I'm seeing a number of things going on. Of course, I can't talk about all of them, but I'm just going to foreground two things, two aspects of the plays between Miss Perry and Brother John Dennis Anderson. When I look at John's play, I'm looking at something that is linear and also horizontal. I'm seeing a binary coming out a lot. North, south, east, west, north by way of the south. White, black, man, woman, gay, straight. All of this is in this binary, and yet and still there's this balance that Lena and John work with each other as they try to work out this quid pro quo in terms of how power would be distributed. John had his reason. She spoke to him and understood she did. And she said, it's not that I won't cooperate with you, but I'll do it with you if you do it with me. Now, this is a difference in terms of the relationship historically, as we saw that normally happened in Waco, Texas. So we see that binary coming out. When I look at Candace's plays, I'm seeing something else. I'm seeing a triptych. I'm seeing that, yes, you have two sides. You have Robert E. Lee and you have Bo, but you also have George. You also have Cora Lee and you have Cliff, but you also have Sheila. Between these two sides, you what we call a liminal zone. That's that zone that's betwixt and between, neither here nor there. The subjunctive mood, shoulda, woulda, coulda. And when you look at this binary, it's pretty stable in either of the two plays. But that liminal zone is where some interesting things happen, because anything allowed to happen in the liminal zone. So therefore, in the first play with George, we see him orchestrating the relationship between Bo and the character Robert. Robert can't quite get himself together because he's fallen off a perch and he's awake and he don't even know what time of day is. Now, George is coming and he's about to go to work, but Cliff wants to go to work too. And so he asks for money. And so he is that character that disrupts this unity that's about to be built between Bo and Robert E. Lee. When I come down and I look at Sheila and I see her relationship between old Cora Lee and Cliff, we see a similar sort of thing, that when she enters, he doesn't know who they are. And when she finds out that they're white, well, she finds out, and we find out through her, that she may know more about them than they know about her. I.e., well, she knows what Juneteenth is. And though, I'm living in Texas right now, and this was happening in 2017 or 18. Now, Juneteenth has been a paid state holiday ever since 1980. It's hard for me to believe that Cliff never heard of it. However, I realize these are not real people. These are specific individuals in a specific set of circumstances in a specific place. So I can buy it for that individual. But she also is searching for something too. In some ways, she's in many ways less stable than our first liminal character. She's looking for family. They know what family is. And she says, I want to know about my lost people in Louisiana and Texas. And she found that they were having this reunion and she thought she could do that. But as we go to the end, she finds out she indeed is welcome. Don't know if she's going to invite the cousins, but she found something liminal that she's looking at. So that's what I'm seeing in terms of the structure. Now, when I start thinking about in terms of opening up questions for the audience, I got sort of three I like to pose. There was once a playwright, essayist, philosopher, about 2,500 years ago, named Plato. Plato had an interesting observation about people like John and Candace, the poets, the playwrights. He wouldn't let them in his ideal republic. He banned them. In fact, not only did he ban what they wrote, he banned them. So he might have been saying something about, we should be sort of skeptical and critical of people who got this much power, that they can affect the politics of the situation. So before I ask them about questions about their creations, I think maybe we might need to check them out first. So I'm going to ask the question first to John, then I'm going to ask to Candace. And I'm looking for a particular order. I'm looking for, how did you get here on this night, December 14, 2021? And I want you to take me through three plot points. One is college. What happened in college to jumpstart your career to here as you became a professor, John, that you are here talking to us tonight as a playwright and actor. And I asked Candace the same thing. What happened to you in college that would move you in a profession as a social worker? It would also move you as a creative worker to write plays. And what's the relationship between those two things, the past, the present, and the future, in one life, as well as in the whole of American life that we're looking at through all these plays? So John, start me in Baylor and sort of move me to here.
Well, it's funny that you asked. Can everybody hear me, by the way? Good. I first discovered Saronia, Texas as my master's project for a graduate degree in communication studies. And I started researching that novel and learned how much of it was based in Waco history. For example, the lynching, the Waco Horror of 1916. Growing up in Waco, it was not taught in the school, in schools about the lynching. So I educated myself by reading Saronia, Texas, and then adapting it as a stage play. And that was now over 40 years ago, but I find myself constantly coming back to Saronia, Texas, and Madison Cooper. So yes, I did start this in college, interestingly, and it has haunted me ever since. I wanted to briefly comment on the notion of the binaries that you describe in the play, and I think that's very insightful. And I also was trying in the play to create a point of intersection, a point of common ground, a dialogue where the two binaries could try to find common ground. So thank you for so beautifully articulating that notion of the structure of the play. Well, I'll pass the baton now to Candace and let her talk a moment.
Okay, thank you. Charles, that's a great question. How did you get here? Well, I don't know if you know, but I did my undergraduate work at Louisiana State University in Baton Rouge. I did my graduate work at Tulane University in New Orleans. I often say I am not a Southerner, but I did in the introduction to these plays and our press release say I was raised in the South, which is what I really have to say. My father was in the military. I lived in many states in the South. My mother was from Mississippi. So I grew up in very Southern cauldron. And if I could understand it and answer that question easily, I think I would really be a very wise woman, but I'm afraid I can't. I just know that issues of race have troubled me all my life. And I remember as a little girl, I remember confronting my grandparents, my aunt, my uncle. I remember in college being troubled. And so it's just something that has just been with me for so long. And I feel that it is a great problem and issue that white people need to face. And I just have seen it over and over again. And I will have to confess, when I moved to the Cape from New Orleans, where I had lived for many years, I thought, great, racism isn't going to be a problem on Cape Cod because there aren't many Black people here. So, this is terrible to admit. I mean, my thinking was Black people caused racism. Stupid. And realized when I got here, my gosh, it's as much here as it is everywhere. And it is white people that cause racism. And so that's, I guess, what got me here.
Thank you. At a later point, I'm going to define what I mean by racism, and we can talk about what we mean by that term. But the other issue that I found fascinating about both of your plays was that you gave a representation and a position of two Black women, Lena and Sheila. And I'm looking at, in terms of power, a lot has recently, and I say recently, the last 30 years, been written about Black women. And novelists and folklorists and some essayists have talked about antebellum society, and they've talked about power was most concentrated in white men and Black women on the slave plantation. Zora Neale Hurston, the playwright and novelist, had an interesting observation about Black women. She said that Black women are the muse of the world. She said that Black men want to own Black women, and white men want to own all women. And so when I see how you all placed there, what was it that you were trying to say, either through your own voice, through these Black women, in terms of if the character came alive and you weren't necessarily trying to say anything, the character told you what she wanted to say, and how did you mediate those two things to give voice? Because I found the voice very authentic, and I've known Black women all of my life. So I'm interested in how you came to that voice, to those two characters. John.
Well, you know, that's a fascinating question. In my play, Madison Cooper is real. The novel Seronia, Texas is real. The Cooper House, which is now the Cooper Foundation, is real. Bertha Walton was real. And I don't know a lot about Bertha. I have been able to find her grave, and I've looked at various oral histories where people have talked about Bertha. And I do know from her obituary that she had nieces and nephews. And so for the purposes of my play, I wanted to create a character who would be related to Bertha enough years later that it would be a grandchild or a grandnephew or niece. And I never considered making it a male, which is interesting. I could easily have done that. I guess I was maybe playing with the idea that in a larger production that this would be a piece of, I would have two actors, one playing myself and Madison Cooper, and a woman playing Bertha and her grandniece, who I named Lena Worsham. But you're absolutely right that Black women taking on a particular place in white society under slavery permeates the novel. And then because Bertha Walton was the housekeeper who was the subject of gossip, and there are characters in the novel who are Black women who have relationships with white men, I was sort of mirroring things so that some of the stories that Lena tells in my play, that may or may not be true, parallel some of the power dynamics between white men and Black women in the novel. I did want to also pull in Betsy Smith's comment, our question, where does the ghost fit in the binaries in my play? And I would say there are, in effect, two ghosts in my play. There's Madison Cooper's ghost, who is presumably, playing or typing on the typewriter. And then there's also the ghost of Bertha, who is Lena's great aunt. And she's the voice you hear singing, presumably at the end. While you probably couldn't hear it, but there were typewriter keys clicking too. So the ghosts are the liminal point that parallel the relationships on various levels in the play and in the novel. But they are the sort of liminal, topsy-turvy, betwixt and between characters. You don't really know if they're there or not. So I'll stop there and let Candace address the question.
Okay. So the question I'm on. First off, I am very indebted to the wonderful actress Sally Ty, who played Sheila, because I really like to run the lines by the actors and ask them, does this feel real to you? Does it work? Does it feel like this person would say this? And Sally's always a huge help with something like that. This play came about through the 24-hour play process that the Provincetown Theater did. And when this process is done, you are given your actors. It's kind of flipped from how it normally is. Usually you write a play and then you go get the actors. This one, you get the actors and you write a play for them. And my actors ended up being Sally and a white woman and a white man. And in 24 hours, overnight, you had to write this play. And somehow that's the play that came to me. And then I've since refined it and worked on it a lot. But I was just very struck by, as things are changing and as people are doing all this ancestry work, how disappointing would it feel to a person of color to think that she's going to get these relatives who might help her understand more about herself and her history, and instead she gets these white folks who are pretty clueless. And I'm sorry to say how many, I think especially white people, never heard of Juneteenth, even if they live in Texas. And I thought that was just a good frame to use. Did that answer your question, Charles?
It does. I was fascinated with that because I've lived that story twice, but in reverse. There is a family whose ancestry is about 12 miles from here called Lodi, Texas. And they are the Rand families. In fact, Laura Rand might be tuned in from either her home in San Francisco, Berkeley, or St. Louis. But the Rand family would have a reunion every 2 years. And it's the Black side of the family that hosts the reunion. And my friend Laura Rand called and asked and found out that they are related and asked if she could be invited. And of course, they said, of course. And she came, and she's very much a part of the family and other white members of the family. So I've gone there as her guest. I performed there, but I've observed that interaction in family reunions, in this case, a Black family reunion with Rands and white members of the Rand family in terms of the bloodline. So that was interesting to me. And then the question about Black women, and sure, people have written about it. My character, Frederick Douglass, writes about it all the time, the conflict between the cook of the White House and his own birth mother. So that power relationship was right there, okay? The other question comes up is, we said, all right, we've identified the problems. How do we move toward the solutions? If we go back to antebellum time, beginning in the 1830s, we had the anti-slavery movement. It was a movement that was made up of men and women, white men, Black women, white women. It was a true intercultural, interracial project. Then in 1908, there was a white riot in Springfield, Illinois, and several whites in New York, both Jews and Gentiles, came together to form a committee called the National Association of the Negro. And they merged with a Black group called the Niagara Movement that Du Bois had formed. And out of that, they formed the NAACP, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People. And they called themselves neo-abolitionists. The abolitionists wanted to abolish slavery. The neo-abolitionist goal was to abolish Jim Crow. And they did that through legislation and litigation in laws and changing the Supreme Court ruling that would affect everyone. So therefore, that was how they had this experiment, Du Bois called it, an interracial corporation. Can white people work with us rather than for us? They can work for us, but can we work mutually, power relationship? So my question is, in terms of your own work, what have you learned about alliance building, building allies across boundaries, whatever boundaries that we will look at, but boundaries that people can deal with the idea of politicization, organization, and mobilization to move it to the next level?
I guess I'll start here, and I just want to call attention to the time at 8:16. We'll try to wrap this up fairly soon. And we have a couple more comments to address in the chat. But your insight about alliances across the races is, what that makes me think of is the Waco Horror of 1916, when W.E.B. Du Bois, who was the editor of The Crisis, sent a white woman named Elizabeth Freeman undercover into Waco to investigate the Waco Horror. And that led to the publication of a pamphlet called The Waco Horror that had photographs of the lynching. And that publicized lynching internationally at a level that was fairly unprecedented at that point, and raised a lot of outrage about lynching. And that's a fascinating example of an alliance between a white woman and a Black man, the editor, W.B. Du Bois. And I think that gives me hope for, I don't know, it's inspiring for the possibility of alliances. And I also want to pay tribute to Dorothy Maines Prince, because I think she gave me so much insight into Lena, as Candace was describing with Sally Ty. I've known Dorothy for many years. We taught together at Emerson College. We've worked together in Chautauqua. And I think she added a lot of substance and nuance to the character of Lena Worsham from my rough sketch on the page. So thank you, Dorothy, for that.
I guess what I'd say about allies and alliances, I think we still have a lot to learn. And I think we're trying to find our ways and trying to figure out how to be most helpful, how to get out of the way sometimes, and then how to make things happen. And sometimes it's by speaking out. Sometimes it's by calling attention. It feels like it's very big. And again, I feel like I don't have the answer to that yet. I know I'm involved in many groups. I hope I help move them forward. But at the same time, like one of the things John and I talked about, as white playwrights taking on the issue of racial reckoning, would we do better to get out of the way and have some Black playwrights come in and write the plays and help make their work be done? And I think that's still one of the things I'm struggling with.
Well, Malcolm X would have an answer to that question. He would say no. He would say it might be interesting for whites alliances to work among white people. That whites can talk to white people in ways that Blacks never could, and vice versa. And then you can come together. Malcolm created two organizations, the Organization of Afro-American Unity, which was a Black organization, and the Muslim Mosque Incorporated. And as a Sunni Muslim, they made no distinctions between race. All people work together, and then they could work it and they come together. So Malcolm would say, no, you don't get out of the way. In Cape Cod, it's there. And so
you maybe point it out, or sometimes you get the privilege to be the one to point things out.
Exactly. Exactly.
And I think that's one of the things why the No Surrender play is important to me, because I do feel this is not old news. I mean, this is just happening now. And this removal of statues. And when I lived in New Orleans, I drove past the statue of Beauregard every single day. And I drove down Jeff Davis Avenue. And I never thought, hey, I ought to be working on getting rid of these. And now I do. And so we learn. We just keep learning and becoming aware.
I superimposed 3 other actors over that. I superimposed 3 Black actors. I superimposed myself playing the part of Bo. I superimposed the best actor I've ever known, my best friend, Freddie Gardner, who founded the Afro-American Players with me, playing General Lee. And actually, I cross-gender cast his wife, Lodine Baker, to play the liminal character. It could be done either seriously or very much a satire, but it would give a different type of view when you step in the skin of the other and make us critically think. But as we say, is that the purpose is not so much to applaud us, but to raise questions. So why don't we open it up for the audience to ask some questions?
Well, a number of people have commented, said very generous things of praise. And like I mentioned earlier, we did get a question from Betsy Smith about the ghost and the binary. She also said, Candace, Sheila seems to be the one in the last play who is more taken aback by her white relatives than they are by having Black family. And otherwise, so if Candace wants to address that, otherwise, mostly people are congratulating us and saying very nice things. Candace, you want to?
Could I add something? I mean, I didn't want to write a dissertation there, but I was thinking about the Jefferson family, the very large Jefferson family, the very white branch of the large Jefferson family that has regular reunions and will not invite the Hemings branch of the Jefferson family. And so I thought that this made a contrast with that historical and into the present group where at least she wasn't Jewish, you know, she was Black, but she wasn't Jewish. And so maybe that just made me think about a bunch of different things.
Yeah, well, thank you, Betsy. And I think that's another play there about the Jefferson Hemings one. I just kind of, also it comes from having, you know, I have many, many relatives who are in the South, and they're just the most polite people in the world. And I have to say, many of them are really coming along and changing, and you know, things are changing. But that's interesting. I don't know the Jefferson one.
I met a couple of Jefferson descendants. In fact, here in Texarkana, we have a direct descendant of the mother of a Jefferson descendant. When I lived in Austin, I became acquainted with the then president of Houston's Tillerson College, the HBCU, Dr. John King. I was in his office one day, and he was telling me that he was a direct descendant of Sally Hemings. Of course, this was years ago before it came out, and I didn't really understand what that meant. Now, if he had told me he was also a 3-star general in the Army, that I would have had an understanding of. But he told me that he was, and he passed several years ago, and I was just looking through the catalog of known Black Jefferson descendants, and there he was, Lieutenant General John King. So a young lady that I went to school with married his son, and they have a daughter, and so she's a direct descendant of Jefferson's. But the Jefferson that I met, the young man, seemed to say that he was very accepted by the white members. I don't know if it's an individual thing, but go on.
I want to dive in on that too, because a friend of mine from Austin, Texas, is a descendant of Jefferson and is going to be buried in Monticello. And he's told me that there are conversations between the Jefferson Hemingses. And so I think there has been progress made. I don't remember the details, but I have the general impression that there has been dialogue between the descendants, the white descendants, and the mixed race descendants of Thomas Jefferson. Well, I think we're, Jane McDonald asked, Charles, what do you understand the word racism to mean? I see we're at 8:25, 8 minutes, or 8:25. So I don't know if you can have a pithy response to that question, Charles, about what you understand racism to mean. Could you give it a try?
Sure. 50 years ago, 1971, I got out of school, started back to school. Sociology, Thomas Pettigrew defined racism as, quote, the predication of decisions and policies on consideration of race for the purpose of subordinating a racial group and maintaining control over that group, close quote. So the essence of racism was power. Unlike prejudice, prejudice means to prejudge, but racism is when you want to exert power from one racial group to another, and you have the power to do that. So therefore, when people say affirmative action is Black racism or racism in reverse, no, not in America. Black folk don't have the power to do that. They could do that in Nigeria, but not in America. So we make the distinction between racism and things like prejudice.
Oh, that's a wonderful, thank you, Charles. You have been so, such a powerful voice tonight in articulating our responses to the three plays. I was realizing today that the title Racial Reckonings, I think of it as, you know, a great reckoning on the first level, but it's to say in the South, I reckon means you're saying, I think. And so we're thinking here about these issues as we reckon our way through the three plays. Mead Fox has one last comment here. When Joseph Ellis wrote the book about Jefferson entitled American Sphinx, Monticello wasn't willing to acknowledge Sally Hemings' relationship with Jefferson. Now, however, Monticello has tours about slavery and include the history of Hemings and Jefferson's relationship. So there's progress there. Well, thank you all so much. We thank our gracious funders and our friends at Preservation Hall in Wellfleet. And thank you for joining us tonight. Candace, do you want to say anything?
I just want to say, I reckon we're working on getting there. I love that use of it. And Charles, thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Conceptualizing things for us. And thank you to all of you who watched. I think as a playwright, what I'm missing the most is the audience. And so I can see Jane sending out the hand signals there and other people, and it's so nice. So thank you all so much. It was Kathy, other people. I can't see everybody's face on here at one time, but thank you all so much for tuning in and joining us and helping us continue to get work out there. And maybe you'll see these plays on stage sometime. Thank you all.
In the meantime, thank you for sharing them with us on video.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
So Emily, you want to send us out?
I'll send you out. Thank you so much for everyone for joining us. And like I said, this will be recorded and will be on our website soon. We'll get this out to everyone.
One quick pitch. If you want to donate any money to anybody, please donate to Wellfleet Preservation Hall, because they have hosted this so generously, and they're going to be putting it up as a, something we can see again. And they really keep things going in the community. So thank you.
Thank you, Candace. We appreciate it. All right, everyone, have a lovely evening, and we hope to see you all either virtually or in person soon. Take care.